Hey everybody, Scott Marsh here with another episode of All Things Music. Today we have with us a very special guest here, Mr. Greg Hillis. So thank you for being with us today, Greg.
Thank you for having me, Scott.
Just to give you a little background on Greg, we've known each other for quite some time, and Greg got his bachelor's degree in music education at Mansfield University in Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. He then went on to get a double master's degree in both music education and horn performance from Kent State, which is where he and I met. And then since then, he's been playing professional horn here in the Northeast Ohio area for 15 to 20 years or so. He is a member of the Firelands Symphony. Mm-hmm. He is a member of two different brass quintets, the Heritage Brass Quintet and
Olympic Brass.
He is also the executive director for the Snowbelt Musical Arts Association, which is why we have him on today. So today we're going to be talking about community music organizations, the importance of them, and some of the details involved in them, and just kind of all that. So we have prepared some questions here and some topics that we're going to discuss. So we're going to dive right in, Greg, if that's okay with you.
Sounds good.
And we'll kick it off here. So what is, pick maybe a couple highlights or the one thing that sticks out to you. What's the importance of having community music organizations around?
One of the things I think is really important is that, a lot of kids go through middle school and high school and they play instruments or they're in choir or musical theater or those kind of things. Mm-hmm. And, they want to continue doing that after they get out of high school. So it's important for them to have, and some kind of an outlet for that passion that they have. Even though it's not something that they're doing as a career.
Right.
So, and not just in music, like theater and choral and instrumental and all kinds of different things like that. It's sort of like, rec league basketball for
Sure.
people.
Sure. Yeah. It's a good analogy. And I always hear people talk about, they'll see me play or come to hear a concert and someone will say, I used to play, trombone and then, I just didn't have an opportunity to, I didn't play in college and so I didn't, or I didn't go to college or whatever. And so this provides an outlet for them to continue doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. And also I run into people all the time that say they wished they had learned to play an instrument when they were in school and never did. And, a community organization like this could give them an opportunity to learn.
Absolutely,
well.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. So, yeah, that's a great point.
Point. Some of the other things too is it's I know like where we started our organization on the east side of Cleveland, there aren't a whole lot of musical opportunities for people to hear concerts. In our 2-county area that we operate in.
Well, they got to drive to Cleveland, which could be a hike.
Right, they got to drive to Cleveland, and it's a long drive, and the concerts are expensive sometimes,
Sure.
and stuff like that. So I think it's important for them to have opportunities, not only for the players but for the audiences to have concerts that are close to home. That are affordable, and they can be, a kind of a sense of pride for the community as well to have.
Sure.
We have, this in our community.
Right. Yeah. So it's not just about the musicians and the opportunity it provides, but it's a lot about the community too, and giving them an opportunity to grab on some things that they normally would not have an opportunity to. Mm-hmm. So great. So the Snowbelt Musical Arts Association, Greg spearheads this thing, and it's still fairly new, although it's extremely successful already, which is great. It just goes to show you how much people, are looking for that kind of, looking for that thing. So they have a mission statement, and we just want to go over this because it's important to know, again, why we're doing some of these things. So the mission statement is to enrich, educate, and entertain the community through music. And then there's some sub-points here. The first would be provide local, affordable opportunities for audiences of all ages to hear a variety of high-quality musical performances. To support educational programming that promotes lifelong musical learning in an enjoyable setting. to encourage the musical education of young people, and to expand community collaboration with other arts, community, and educational organizations. So with that being said, Greg, explain to us how your organization is fulfilling these missions. So how do you provide local, affordable opportunities for audiences of all ages?
Well, at this time, we're not charging admission to our concerts. We're offering them free to the community. We're, of course, accepting donations at the concerts
Absolutely.
to help defray the expenses that we have. But we don't want people to be unable to attend a concert because they can't afford tickets or whatever to be able to come to the concerts.
Right.
So,
and how frequently are you guys performing?
Our adult concert band is running in 5 sessions per year, so that ends up being 2 concerts in the fall. This year it's October and December. 2 concerts in the spring, which will be March and May, and then 1 over the summer, which will end up being in July.
Okay, yeah. So there's multiple opportunities, and they're affordable, and you move locations around the area too, so that you kind of get into different corners and nooks and crannies of the community.
Right. Yeah, we operate in Lake and Geauga counties on the east side of Cleveland, so we're trying to split the concerts pretty well evenly between Lake County and Geauga County.
Okay, great. So how are you supporting educational programming that promotes lifelong musical learning?
Well, we've got a youth ensemble called the Blizzard Youth Winds. That's for middle school and high school instrumental, band instrumental students. And we do 2 sessions a year with them, 1 in the summer and 1 in the winter. So that's where we get our younger people involved. Our adult concert band is actually open to anyone that can play at a high school level and up. So we do have a few high school students that play with us, and it goes on up to people that are in their 80s now.
Yeah, great, okay. So how do we, and this kind of one wraps into this other one, but encourage the musical education of young people?
Right, so we've got our Blizzard Youth Winds. We're looking at expanding some of our offerings for young people as well, perhaps in the future, including or starting a chamber music camp in the summertime.
Fantastic.
We're going to try to do some outreach to some of the public schools in our area, sending professional musicians to do master classes and clinics with students at the schools, and those kind of things too.
That's great, yeah. And then how are we expanding community collaboration with other arts, community, and educational organizations?
Well, one of the things that we're doing is I'm also involved with the Rabbit Run Community Arts Association, which offers dance classes and private music instruction. They have a community theater that operates in the summertime, and so we're trying to do a little cross promotion between our 2 organizations.
Sure.
I know this past summer they were doing Into the Woods as one of the shows that they were doing. So our concert band did a medley of songs from Into the Woods.
Sure.
And I would announce at the concert that, if you want to see Into the Woods, you'll have this opportunity.
Right, no, that's a great idea.
Right here, close to home. And then they're helping us out too by, promoting our concerts through their Facebook page and stuff too.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Okay, so how can people who are running similar, some of you out there may be running similar programs or similar organizations, from your experiences, because, and I'll give you a little bit of even more backstory. So before Greg spearheaded this whole thing last year, or this year, I guess, right? It was January 2017.
Yeah, we just started in January.
So before he spearheaded this, it's not like he was new to the whole community band world, okay? So he's had many experience. He was the director of the Geauga County Fair Band for many, many years. Mm-hmm. So he had a lot of experience. So with all this experience you've gotten, and now spearheading a whole organization on your own, what can you tell those who are doing similar projects? How can they recruit for their groups?
Well, it helps to know a lot of people, for one.
Sure, yeah. I bet that helps a lot.
Yeah, I was, because I had been involved in some other community groups in the area, I was, able to. What we did when we got started was we sent out a survey, an interest survey in November last year, asking if people that would be interested in playing in a new community band in the area, what night of the week would be good for them.
Sure.
What time, how long the rehearsals should be, how many rehearsals before each concert, how many concerts to do in a year. Asked a whole ton of questions about this.
So there's a lot of information gathering.
Yeah,
right?
a lot of information gathering. I sent the survey out to about 60 people myself, and between those people and other people that they knew passing it around, we ended up with over 150 responses to the survey.
That's great, yeah.
And I knew we weren't going to have 150 people in the band, but because that would be a little unwieldy. But it worked out that we were able to get enough people to start the community band. We actually had 75 people play the first concert.
That's fantastic. Yeah, it's huge. So great. Okay. So put a survey out. Do some data study and figure out what the people are hungry for, what they're looking for in an organization, right? So somebody starts a program or adds to the program by doing a survey and gets some more people in. So now they've got the quantity enough to do this. How do they grow their groups in quality? Well, it's probably a little more difficult, maybe even than finding people. But how do you kind of approach that?
It's kind of a tough thing there. It's like, if your group is good, it's going to attract good people to it, and good players. And
right.
So, the key is, I think, if you can get a few good players to start with,
that really helps.
It really helps.
Sure.
Yeah. If you make the group is something that people enjoy coming to, it's going to be easier to recruit players as well. Mm-hmm. And also, as far as getting better players, it depends on your community. There are communities that have a lot of players looking for opportunities to play, and
right, yeah.
Other places, people might have to drive further to get to.
Sure, yeah.
To something too.
And I imagine that once you have the group, once you have the players, to help those individual players grow as players and to improve the quality from within, it's just a matter of good rehearsal technique. Mm-hmm. Good solid goals for your group, putting them in positions that are challenging for them, but that they're ultimately going to succeed in, and just, kind of pushing the envelope for them a little bit as a musician, right? Keeping it interesting and challenging for them, but in such a way that that they're going to succeed.
Yeah, that's one of the challenges with a community group is you've got a wide range of ability levels within the group, and you have to, choose repertoire that's not going to be way over the heads of some of the players and boring to the other players.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah.
So there's sort of a balance there. I try to on my concerts, I try to pick one piece that's going to push the group.
Right.
And then fill it in with some pieces that are at the level. At a good level for the group, and one or two maybe easier pieces too that won't require a whole lot of rehearsal time.
Sure.
So
and those easier pieces don't have to be boring pieces on their own, right? They can still be quality pieces, quality works.
Oh, right.
But something that is just, you know, the way that it's written or arranged is just a little bit easier to grab onto.
Right. There's, some like pop tunes are pretty easy. They're fun for the players. They don't require a whole lot of rehearsal time. The audience enjoys them. So, we do a couple of those on each concert too.
Not to say anything bad about pop music. We just want moving on here. So, how important is it, and we kind of touched on this throughout for what we're talking about, how important is it to not only the players but the community and the audience to offer a wide variety of musical genres throughout your concert series? So you have a concert band. There's probably a little bit of a limit of what you can do there. I mean, there are arrangements of all kinds of things for concert bands, but how important is it for you to kind of mix it up a little bit and keep it fresh?
Well, one of my guiding philosophies for choosing repertoire is that people like what they know. And so I always try to put something on a concert that is going to be something that people in the audience will be familiar with and will enjoy, or something that, even if it's not something that they're directly familiar with, will be of a similar style. They might know Stars and Stripes Forever and Washington Post, but we could do another Sousa March on the concert
that they don't know,
and it's still familiar to them.
Right.
I also like to mix in, something that's going to challenge them as listeners, so that they, the next time they hear it, they'll be familiar with it, and something that's got. I try to look for something that has some kind of an interesting story to it, or like some interesting historical perspective that I can give the audience before we play, so it kind of draws them in a little bit. Maybe
Slava from Bernstein, or some Persichetti, some Saint Saul, maybe something like that. Something different. Sure, cool. I think that is important. Even for groups who are, you say, hey, this is a jazz band. It's still important to stretch, in those genres, anything that can be done in a jazz influence. Or if you're saying, listen, we have a chorus group, community gospel choir, stretch sometimes, into different areas and see what happens, challenge your members and challenge the audience, like you're saying, but give them something familiar, give them something that they know for sure, and then give them some things that stretch their ear a little bit and make them think a little bit. So I think a good variety of that is good. And that can be hard to do too in programming, because you don't want it to be so mixed up that the flow of the concert doesn't make sense. So that's another challenge in itself.
Right. Yeah. It's tough because I've been to concerts where it sounds like they played the same piece 6 times in a row, or basically because it's all the same style.
That's like listening to the high school large group ensemble for me. Like at the concerts, at the festivals, and at the trying to get your ones and twos. It's like 7 hours of the same song. Anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So I also like to mix it up with having soloists perform with the group. Because it's something different. It gives the audience something to focus on. Sure. Gives them a person to connect with or identify with. One thing I really like doing, and not a lot of concert bands do this, I like to have a vocal soloist.
It's great, and there's plenty of literature out there for it.
Not as much as you would think, but
there's There's not a ton of it, but there is a good handful of it out there.
Right, there's pieces out there, and I've done a lot of arrangements myself. I've got
you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, I've got a few vocalists that I've worked with different bands that I've worked with in the past, and I've written arrangements for them when there wasn't a stock arrangement available. And sometimes you can take a band arrangement and make it work for the vocalist if it's in the right key, and you can just tacit some of the instruments so that they're not.
Take a big band version of a tune that they're going to sing and then add some instrumentation.
Yeah, I've done that before too. Just added, clarinet and flute parts to a big band chart.
So create your own opportunities to help with that texture and to help with the different musical offerings. Provide some like I said, texture. So I think it's real important. So
yeah,
cool. So this is one for me that I was thinking about because there's so many different players on different ability levels. What are some things you do to keep your members motivated?
Well, one of the things that I think is that people like to enjoy rehearsal time. So I try to work on different levels all at the same time. For the people that are playing can play all the notes and rhythms, I try to challenge them to take it to the next level and add in the articulations, add in some shaping to the phrases, and then hopefully that they can pull the other people along with them then too.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's a good idea, and I think also just kind of going backwards a little bit, saying if you have a really great player. Challenge them and keep them motivated by bringing them up front and saying, hey, you're going to play this piece, it's a solo, and, like you said, bringing the different instrumentalists out to do a solo work with the group, I think is a good way, too, to help keep them motivated. And as you do your chamber ensemble thing, maybe even, you ask folks, hey, would you like to, get a brass quintet together from the group and maybe play some pre-concert music before we begin, or maybe we feature you on one specific tune. There are even some brass quintet and concert band pieces out there, so maybe you do one of those, just like you said, just try to give them opportunities musically within the particular songs, or by pulling them out, or even asking them to do sectionals and to help out. I guess could be an opportunity for them to stay motivated. So.
Yeah, and I think just the atmosphere that you have in rehearsal too is helpful in keeping people motivated. If they enjoy coming and working, and if you're upbeat in rehearsal and not always tearing people down and singling them out and doing that that was
not spending half an hour just on this clarinet passage.
Right. Yeah. If you keep things moving, people enjoy it. They come to rehearsal to play. They don't come to hear you talk, and they don't come to hear,
for sure,
you fine tune a chord in the woodwinds for 30 minutes either.
Right.
So.
Right.
So you got to keep it.
All good points. So this one, of course, is a never-ending question. Sometimes can be very difficult to grasp onto as far as finding answers, but any keys that you can come up with, or any thoughts about funding and or getting donations? You mentioned opening up the concerts for donations for the people who come. That's probably not where the majority of your money comes. I don't know, maybe it does, but I mean, it depends on how well you do. But what are some other thoughts or ways that you can approach funding?
Well, if you come up with anything, let me know.
Right.
But
which is why I said it was going to be a tough one, folks. So.
Right. So far we've been running on donations. What we have not. There are no dues or fees for anybody to play in our adult band. However, we encourage people to make a donation to the organization to help us cover the expenses of, rehearsal space and the concert space and sheet music, and you got to have insurance when you have an organization, and all kinds of
things that people don't think about, really, that you have to have in order to make this go.
Right, and even promoting the concerts and stuff, there's a little bit of expense there with printing posters and getting them put up around town and stuff. We did just for this last concert, we got started selling advertisements in our concert programs.
Which is a great idea.
We didn't get as many advertisements as we were hoping for, but we'll continue to keep doing that.
Right.
The one thing that I've found is that we sent out over 150. Basically, they were cold calls, letters to different businesses in the community. And the thing that we found was that ones that we had a personal connection with were the ones that chose to advertise with us.
Sure.
So, in that realm, building relationships with the businesses in the community is going to be one of our goals going forward now.
Right. And I can speak a little bit on this just because I've experienced some of this in some other organizations that I've been in and other things that I've come across. So, that's a great way to do it, is to get businesses to here, we'll give you X amount of dollars to put our, advertisement in your program. Or we'll give you a small banner to hang up in front of the stage or something like that. It's for businesses, even though, you would hope that they would say, oh, well, I'm going to donate to this just because it's a great community event or organization. But deep down inside, right, it's all about what we call ROI, return on investment. So, for businesses. So you have to, when you do that, you announce those businesses and you tell the people in your audience, thank you so much for coming today. We want to thank these folks who gave some money and put some advertisements in here to help support the group. Please go out in town and go to these businesses and spend some money, right? They're helping us. We need to help them. We need to all work as a community together. If it's a pizza joint, and it's an advertisement or a coupon that you get from them, or maybe you could raffle off, a $10 coupon for that, whatever it is. You just try to get the businesses involved, not just giving you the money to be in the program, right? Get them to understand that they're a part of it. And that we're going to be kicking the business back to you, hopefully, and promoting your business. We're actually going to stop and say a few words about each business throughout the night, and hopefully do that. So that's really important to do that, to get those corporate sponsors to, and I call them corporate, even though it may just be a mom and pop pizza place down the road, but
right.
To get those sponsors in that business. Another thing that people, I think, forget about and they just don't tap into is, well, first and foremost, I'll say this: if you don't ask, you're never going to get the money, right?
True.
So if you don't ask the question, you're never going to get the money. So I'll tell you just this very quick story to just try to help prove a point. So I was at Kent State. We were in, particularly we're talking about the jazz ensembles right here. And we wanted to make a trip to New York City to play at the Lincoln Center, kind of not on the stage there, but there was this program they were doing college bands. We really wanted to go and experience that program. It was kind of like a masterclass program, but we had to go to them. Mm-hmm. And, the school of music said, we'll put up X amount of dollars, but it wasn't enough to fund the trip. And so we thought about, doing like a high school or middle school or elementary school would. Sell candy bars, do something, right? Come up with money, right? And one of the things I did was I started making phone calls, and there's a guy by the name of Jamie Aebersold who has an entire jazz play-along series. And for Jamie, because he's helped me out many times, I will pitch his website. It's Jamie Aebersold Jazz or .com or jazzbooks.com. Jazzbooks.com is the one you want to go to. But so I asked him, hey, we're trying to do this, and we just don't have the money, and he graciously opened up his checkbook while he was on the phone with me, wrote the check. I could hear him ripping out of the checkbook, and he sent it to us. I called him again 2 years later. He gave us 3 times as much money the second time around. And I called him again about 4 years after that for a high school, for a friend of mine who was running a high school band who needed some materials to start his jazz education program. And he cut a check to them. So I also have a couple of friends who have called publishing companies, music publishing companies, who have called instrument brand companies, Conselmer, so you can call these folks and say, listen, we have this program, we're promoting all these education things, we're doing this, show them all the things you're doing. We need a little boost. Could you give us a donation and write it off, and they will be charitable. Most of them have a limit of what they do for the year. Most of them never hit that limit, and the money just stays there. So don't be afraid to ask major people and big time corporations, right? Within the field that you're in and otherwise. Just don't be afraid to do that, because you never know who's going to say yes. And trust me when I tell you that one yes versus the 10 no's is glorious, because you'll get more than you thought you were going to get. So.
Right. And, in doing a lot of the research to begin the nonprofit organization, I found that the majority of charitable giving is actually by individuals. So
right.
The people that if you get people interested in your organization and feel like it's an asset to the community, individuals are going to be part of the biggest.
They'll give. Right.
Yeah. Some of the other things that we've been exploring too is we just wrote our first grant, submitted that at the beginning of October, so we're still waiting to hear back from that to see if we got anything there. Yep. And there are other ones that we're planning to work on in the future as well.
There are grants out there.
There are grants out there.
There is a skill to grant writing. There are many books that you could get and read about it. There's a definite skill to it, and if you know anybody who has written a grant and you're going to write a grant, bend their ear, because they'll probably have a lot of helpful things to say.
Oh yeah, we've got somebody in our organization that wrote grants for another, not a non-musical organization, but has experience writing grants and stuff. So we're definitely using her as a resource.
Absolutely.
For sure. A couple other things. When individuals do give you donations, if they were, there are a lot of companies that have matching donation programs as well. Some of the ones in our area are Lubrizol and Progressive Insurance. So people that work for those companies, if they donate money to your organization, and it's a registered 501c3, we got some money from the Lubrizol Foundation, just because one of our band members works there and made a donation to us. So it's simple. All they got to do is fill out a little form. It's easy. It's free money for you. Right.
So. And for those of you who don't know, a 501c3 is basically your designation as a nonprofit. It's kind of like what a company would have an LLC or Inc. or whatever. So it's a designation for the organization.
Right. Yeah. 501c3 is part of the tax code.
Right. So
yeah, and there's a process to going through that to getting that. You have to fill out a bunch of paperwork and send it to the government and stuff. But it's not hard, really.
It just takes time and yeah. All right, so the next one is, so besides funding, because that's probably the biggest challenge to overcome, and maybe not, but it seems like it is. Mm-hmm. What are some of the other challenges to starting an organization or just a single group? Because again, Greg's organization, so it's the Snowball Musical Arts Association. Right now they have two groups. The one is the Lake Effect Concert Band, and then he has the Blizzard Youth ones that we talked about that meets twice a year. So so he's got two ensembles and more to come throughout the years. But so what are some of the challenges of starting, not necessarily the big thing, but the big thing, or whatever thoughts you have on that, and starting, a group?
Well, I was fortunate enough to assemble a board for the organization that has been really good to work with and stuff. So I would definitely recommend that when you start if you're starting a new organization, and to find people for your board that are going to be willing to work with you and to put in the work to get it going. One of probably the biggest challenge next to funding and finding players was finding a place to rehearse. Because I don't teach at a school, I didn't have access to, any of the school band rooms or percussion instruments. There's another challenge there, is finding percussion instruments to use, because most of your community percussion players don't have a vibraphone and a xylophone and a set of timpani and a truck to haul them all around in too. So, but finding rehearsal space for a 75 player group, there's kind of a limited number of places that would work for that. I did a lot of research at the beginning of the year, trying to find places to rehearse. I looked at banquet halls and schools and even in an industrial park, looking at an empty space that was for rent there. And it's interesting, like some of the places that you would find, they were either prohibitively expensive to rent on a weekly basis for rehearsals, or there was one banquet hall that the rental fee wasn't that much, but they only had 30 parking spaces. So, which unless everybody carpooled, that really wasn't going to work for
with all their instruments.
With all their instruments for a 75-piece group either. So we were fortunate enough to be able to, and a lot of the schools too, they don't want to rent out the band room because there's so much, unlike other classrooms, there's so much, valuable equipment in there that could get damaged. Right. And so they were very hesitant to want to rent that out. So, if you're not, at a school where you have access to a band room, it's good to know the local band director. Because if they're not
playing in the group, and he can just open the door. So
right, or in our case, the band director is not playing in the group, but she's been very very helpful with very accommodating, letting us use the percussion equipment and stuff for the rehearsals. Right. Unfortunately, the school doesn't let us take anything out of the building for the concert, so we have to scrounge for that. But
donations and try to find.
But yeah, we have the local music store has been letting us borrow the xylophone for concerts. Local colleges let us use the vibraphone for the concert. And I've picked up some stuff at yard sales and stuff. I've conga drums and cymbals and stuff. So and then then our drum set player does bring his own drum set to the concerts and stuff. So
so some of those guys have some stuff.
But yeah, finding rehearsal space was
space,
and then finding concert space too, because not only do you have to have a room big enough for your 75-piece group, you have to have a room big enough to accommodate an audience of 2, 3, 4, however many hundred people you can bring in. We had our first concert at a church, and we filled it to the maximum allowed by the fire marshal between the band and the audience. So for the next concert, fortunately the next two concerts were outdoors, where
that's helpful.
where the space wasn't an issue.
Just need a big patch of grass.
Right. But then the concert, we just had a concert yesterday that we had at another bigger church. They had kind of the stage there wasn't big enough for the band though, so part of the band was up on the stage, part of it was down on the floor. I had to stand on a double stacked podium to be able to, so the people in the back row could see me conducting. But it worked out just fine though. So, it is, depending on your area, it can be difficult to find a space big enough to hold a concert. Again, school auditoriums are nice, but they're also awfully expensive to rent, especially when you have to, if you're not doing it on a school day, you have to pay for a custodian to be there extra. You have to pay for the theater technician, to do the lights and the sound for you as well. That can get expensive awfully quick.
Sure. Yeah. So rehearsal space, concert space, and large equipment. Those are probably the three biggest challenges.
Those have been the biggest challenges.
Sure.
And then other things too. We've been incredibly fortunate to have bassoon players and oboe players and a bari sax player, so we haven't had to worry about
have their own gear.
That all have their own gear. So we've been extremely fortunate in that way. But there's another thing. Those larger woodwind instruments, bass clarinets too.
Sure.
If you don't have, you might have somebody to play it, but not have an instrument to play. So
right, that's a good point. Yeah.
And that also goes back to funding then too.
Right.
To be able to.
So let's go backwards to funding. No, so yeah, that's another thing. So great. So the next thing is, obviously, if you're going to be one of a group of many who spearhead a project, if you're going to be the sole individual who spearheads a project, you are going to spend a lot of time that you're not going to get paid for. Even if you're getting paid as a director, there's still an awful lot of time that you're not going to build a group for. You're not going to get back. Mm-hmm. So without being, depressing, and without being, a pessimist, is it worth it? Is all this work really worth it? And you can kind of speak on this just on a personal note, Greg, instead of just on a general. Is it worth it for you? I know the answer is yes, because we've had conversations, but why? Why is it worth it? Why is all that extra work that you do that you get? No, it's your blood, sweat, and tears. Why is it worth it to you?
There's a couple reasons that I think it's worth it to me. One is kind of on a selfish personal note. I just enjoy the process of choosing music and then rehearsing it and then putting on the performance. I just really enjoy the performance aspect of it. Yeah,
that's what we do, right? That's what musicians do. We don't play music and fall in love with music because we just like to practice in our houses. It's the performance and it's the entertainment aspect.
Right. So I like the challenge of putting together a program, being able to rehearse it in a short amount of time, and put on a quality performance of it.
Right.
And of course, there's always things at the performance you're like, I wish I'd done that differently, or wish that had gone better. But
sure.
But then there are also always those moments at the concert where you're like, yeah, that's how that goes.
Right.
And then the other thing that I really think makes it worth it for me is for the opportunity that it gives to all of the other people that are a part of it. The people, not only the people playing, but the people that come to listen to the concerts as well.
Sure.
Like we said at the beginning, it's there aren't a whole lot of opportunities to hear live music performances, and the more of them that we can provide, the better.
Right, and as most of us who will be watching this, we all know that music is so powerful, and you never know who's going to be at your event, and if you happen to play something or perform something that really touches them in such a way, whether it's an old memory, whether it's a connection they have with another individual that's there or not there at the time, or whatever it may be, it's just such a powerful thing, which is why. We talk about it all the time. Let's go watch movies without music, without a soundtrack. It's just a lot of them. A lot more movies you're gonna think. There's already movies that we all think, oh, those are pretty bad movies, right? Without music, there's gonna be a lot more in that category that are gonna be pretty bad, right? Mm-hmm. So it's just it's an opportunity, like you said, to perform and to reach out to folks.
Mm-hmm.
you know, and give them more opportunities to be reached. So.
Right. Yeah, and even the people that are playing in our ensembles just they enjoy it, and I just it's nice to be able to provide something to the community that people can come to and just forget about all the politics that are going on, the bad day they had at work and whatever, and can just come and
the day-to-day noise that they deal with or any stress in their lives, they can come and kind of let that all go and have an experience and build relationships with other people, you know, and work together. In a large ensemble like this, there's so much nonverbal communication that takes place between the players and, of course, between the director and the players. That communication can build some very strong bonds. So it's a place to fellowship with one another and to let some of that stress,
right,
off your shoulders.
Right, and one of the things that we do that I think is really important is that we take a break in the middle of rehearsal so that people can chat with each other and catch up with each other, and I think it's important for two reasons. One, people get to know each other a little bit better that way, and two, if they know they're going to have time to talk for 15 minutes in the middle of rehearsal, then they don't talk during rehearsal.
Keep a chatter to the minimum, right? So,
right,
yeah, exactly. So, great.
But yeah, I think it's important that they, it's good that people get to know each other. I've been in groups that just rehearse straight through, and then everybody goes home, and you don't really get a chance to know the other people in the group as well that way.
Sure. Yeah, that's true. Okay. So, any final thoughts you have about what you do, how to do it, or anything that we've talked about? Anything you want to go back and brush on again? Anything at all?
Oh, boy, I don't know. We've talked about a lot already.
Yeah. He's like, I'm done. I'm toast. But yeah, for me, I would just say, if you're a musician and you're not in a community group, consider it. Especially if you're a professional musician, obviously you're playing in a lot of groups, you may not have the time. But if you're somebody who played in high school or college or hasn't played or wants to play, consider a community organization, that you can be a part of. You really will get some great enjoyment out of it.
And if you're thinking about starting an organization, have a clear plan when you get started. That's, I think, something important. We started thinking about it last October, and then did tons of research as I was getting started. I went to talk with a bunch of different people that had experience with different community bands, people that had experience with grant writing, people that had experience with arts administration, and all kinds of different areas. And with nonprofit organizations, I actually went and took a couple of classes on. They were short, like lunchtime free classes, but went and did those about nonprofit organizations. But so, like I said, it was October. We started the wheels turning. January, we got the nonprofit organization started, and it wasn't until April that we actually had the first rehearsal with the first ensemble.
Right. So great planning is really going to help you have great results, right? So that old, I've ever seen that thing where, somebody takes a piece of paper and writes plan ahead. You ever seen that? And they write the P, the L, the A, the N really big, the A, the H, and then you have to write the E and the A and the D really small to fit it on the paper, right? So, it's when you have a clear vision, it's going to help you recruit because you're not just saying, hey, we're going to get some people together to play. I don't know what it's going to be yet. There might not be as much interest. You have a clear vision and a goal that you're going towards. That's going to help with recruiting. It's going to help with funding. It's going to help with everything and having a board and having some people who are helping handle that load and also come up with great ideas. Listen, you're not, nobody's going to come up with all the best ideas.
Right.
So having some support there who can chime in and offer up some skills or some ideas to help the group start and get off on a good foot right away is probably very important. So.
Yeah, so as many things as you can think about ahead of time and have an idea how you want to do them and how you want to organize things. We, as the board and I talked a lot about how we wanted to, basically how we wanted to run the organization, how we wanted to run the ensembles. And from all the different experiences that we had with different ensembles that we all played in, we could, say, well, this worked with this ensemble and this didn't. So, they did this way, but, is there maybe a better way to do it? And so there was a lot of pre-planning that went into that first rehearsal we had in April.
Sure. Great. All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed, this session here with Greg. Thanks so much, Greg, for coming on and being a part of this. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And there'll be more of these. So if you, by the way, if you want to check out what Greg's doing, snowbeltmusical.org. Snowbeltmusical.org. And that's the Snowbelt Musical Arts Association. For those of you who aren't in Ohio and you're wondering why this musical organization is called Snowbelt, it's because Geauga and Lake counties, which are on the east side of Cleveland in northeast Ohio, it's what we call the snow belt. There's a lot of snow there, and so even though they're playing in the summer and the spring, they thought it was very appropriate to name it that. And then obviously the little play on words with the Lake Effect concert band and the Blizzard Youth Winds. So a lot of fun there. And that also, talks about how, even though this is a serious thing, we're trying to accomplish certain goals, that we're not taking ourselves too seriously. We want to have fun and make it enjoyable for everyone. So check that out. Their next concert is December 2nd, which, is that a Sunday?
That is a Saturday.
It is a Saturday. Where is it at, Greg?
It'll be Saturday, December 2nd at 3 o'clock at Newberry High School.
All right, that's in Newberry, Ohio.
Newberry, Ohio.
So, check that out. I'm sure there's going to be maybe some holiday offerings on this concert.
It is a Holiday Pops concert.
It is a Holiday Pops concert, so those are always fun. So definitely check that out. The next episode of All Things Music that you'll see, I have a very special guest, my wife. Emily Marsh. And Emily, for those of you who don't know, is an elementary school general music teacher. And her and I are going to be talking about different topics involved with elementary general music. So look out for that. That's going to be fun. We'll see you sometime soon here. Check out other episodes here on YouTube. Leave some comments for us. Anything that you want, any topics you want me to discuss. Anybody in particular you'd like me to try to have on, and I'll see what I can do. So thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.